This is the future. Evolution.
The Crossing Realms Conference launches September 19th and 20th and will dock in Richmond, Missouri. This is already being called the event of the year, folks. With an unprecedented list of speakers and special guests, 2 days of cryptids, UFOs, and paranormal presentations, along with a celebrity-filled ghost hunt, meet and greet, gallery reading, vendors, and a film screening. This promises to be both educational and fun. Go to eventbrite.com to secure your tickets and vendor slots before they are all abducted. They're going fast.
Yes, everybody, get those tickets. They are going fast. September 19th and the 20th. The Crossing Realms Conference, everybody. I've said this many times since the beginning of June. I am not wishing away the summer, but I got to tell you, it's fast approaching. Thanks to everybody who's bought tickets. We have vendor slots still available. Sell your wares, sell your goods, wherever you got. Come on down. It's really inexpensive, you guys, if you're out there. So check out eventbrite.com. The link for that's in the show description. It's also on the Blondes and the Booze, Texas Front Porch, across the board. Please check it out. We're broadcasting live from Southern Michigan. This is an around the world, everybody. That's right, around the world. I just looked up something. I got about 8% of people that watch this show from the UK, 7% from Australia, another 5% from, I think, Sweden. So, yes, when I say around the world, we attract them all. Thank you so much for your patronage and supporting the show. Of course, the show is the channel's Bigfootmichiganrob, and joining me, as always, the lovely Krista from the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast. Please subscribe to the Blondes and Booze, Krista and Brandy. Check them on out. Of course, Texas Front Porch and all of our Misfit toys across the board. You know who they are. Please subscribe to them. You can find us on all podcast platforms, including iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Apple, what's the other one? Spotify. We're on all of them. So please go check us out when you're driving around in your car. You want to listen late at night and don't really want to watch the video. Thank you for that. Also, thanks to everybody for buying my books found on Amazon. Bigfoot Michiganrob presents True Cryptid Encounters Book 1 and Book 2. Simply type Bigfoot Michiganrob in your Amazon browser. Both books will pull up. If you've bought it, thank you, and thank you so much. Please leave a review. It does help promote book sales. And don't forget, the Super Chat's open, a great way to support what we all do around here. Also, you, my friends, can become a BMR pirate. Join today, mateys. Join the many, join the few, depending on your point of view. I was just looking up some numbers, which I'm going to go over with Chris in a minute, just to get things started. I just hit 170 pirate members, which for me is a record. So thank you for that as well. So hit that like button and leave a comment. And without further ado, we have a great show. My friend Barry Littleton joins us, and we're going to cover a lot of material tonight. And we'll get on with that in just a minute. But before we do that, I got to bring up the lovely Krista from the Blondes and the Booze.
Hey.
Hello, Krista.
Hey, how are you?
I'm pretty good. You know, I'm doing very well. Thank you. And, you know, Krista, before we bring up Barry, I was crunching some numbers. And do you know, so of course I've had my channel, I think 4 years, and I can't believe this. Just between you and me together as a team on this show, because I did a bunch with Tex, a couple with Brandy, a couple of solo ones before you came on full time with me.
Yeah.
Between you and I, today is our 167th episode together.
Wow. Wow.
You know? I'm
If that's beyond too, because I used to co-host brunch with you too.
You did that as well, and
Yeah.
so I'm not that good on math. 52 weeks in a year, we do it every week, so that's 3 years together, you and I. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks.
No, thank you. You helped drive this show, which is pretty popular.
I love the show. I enjoy doing this show.
Yeah, I do too. I love having you on as always. And my brunch with Bigfootmichiganrob, which is at 1:00 on Thursdays. That show has got, check this out, 175 episodes. However, I had to delete about 50 episodes and 190,000 views because you remember we had that fiasco with the streaming, and I lost 190,000 views. I lost 70 shows because we all got demonetized.
Yep.
Tex got the brunt of it. He was demonetized for 6 months. I spent a month in purgatory.
Yeah.
So, and the Late Show, I looked this number up. The Late Show with me and you and the girls, this Saturday will be our 70th show.
70?
Yes.
Wow.
That's over a year there.
Wow, man, you and I have done a lot of shows together.
We have done a lot of shows. And I've been on your show numerous times.
Yep.
As a, just coming on in and stuff. So
yeah,
I'm excited. I got to give hats off to you and Brandy, of course, for helping drive my show, because you guys help me do what I do today. So thank you so much for that.
Absolutely.
And of course, with the great people that we have in chat.
Yep.
You guys are awesome. You're all family. And even the people that do not participate in chat, they watch the replay or they're listening now and they don't come in chat. You guys are just as valuable, because without the aggregate of everybody, depending on what you're into, what you do, chat or otherwise, you're the reason why we're on the air, really. Because if no one came in, just like anything on television, you get bad ratings and you shut it down.
Yeah, that's true.
We got a great show. We have Barry Littleton. I met Barry about 2 or 3 years ago. And I found him
dinner with Barry one night.
Yes, you did. In fact, Jessica Jones, I found Barry watching Jessica, the Cryptid Huntress. I said, this dude Barry that's where it's at. So I got his information from Jessica several years ago, and Barry's been a staple on the show. He comes on 3-4 times a year. What I love about Barry, Krista, is this guy can talk about anything.
Yep.
And in fact, tonight's show, we're going to cover the full spectrum of cryptids, the paranormal, and everything. So with that, without further ado, and by the way, everybody, Barry's channel is very simple. All it is Barry Littleton on YouTube. And if you're not a subscriber to Barry, go over and subscribe to Barry Littleton. With that being said, I'm going to bring up my buddy Barry.
Hey.
Hey, what's up, Rob? What's up, Krista? Thanks for having me. Good to see you both, too. Thank you for having me. And greetings to everybody in chat. And appreciate everyone. So this will be a lot of fun, I'm sure.
It's always fun with you, Barry, because you and I can kick it along with Krista about anything. You were on my brunch show, the daytime show. You've been on this show. What I love about you, Barry, is after getting to know you and talk to you off air and stuff, you're a great guy, great personality. I consider you a friend. I want to meet you. You're very gregarious, and I'm sure we could have a lot of fun together. You have that infectious laugh, and I love you, man, and you do a great job with what you do.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I really do.
Great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The warm and fuzzies in these fields are few and far between. So,
and I try to keep it that way. Barry, it's true, and I try to keep it real. I do. The things I say to the guests, I mean it, and I don't say it to everybody. So thanks. And Barry, here's the thing. I realized this not too long ago. I've never asked you this ever. It's kind of my standard question, but I've never given you the standard question. And tonight, everybody listening on in, we're going to cover a lot of different things tonight. It's going to be a very entertaining and informative show. Barry, I never asked you, again, as I mentioned, how in the hell did you get involved in the things you do today regarding the paranormal, the cryptids, all these things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was born into it. I was kind of, from a very young age, somewhat aware. You know what I mean? And having, when I say that, like things that were kind of like, I didn't understand them because there were memories that seemed to go further back than what I did. And then also going further than that, I started having these encounters. And, and it was like odd. I can remember, them happening at 5, but at 7, they really ramped up. And they consumed my mind a lot, my attention. So I spent years trying to discover what in the HE double hockey sticks was happening to me.
Yeah.
And that would be, the different than the childhood experiences. And then that goes over into adult onset experiences and adulthood, but the ones when I was a child, I was really trying to figure out what was going on, especially in like about the late 80s, the early 90s. And it's so interesting because what I see now are the people like Barbara Marchinique in that book, Bringers of the Dawn, and Alyssa Royale wrote that book about the Prism of Lyra. And there's a few of these things that have become staple and almost like religions now. You know what I mean? And it's the same stuff that gets repeated again and again, especially when you go back further back to like the 60s.
Yep.
And and it makes me wonder, like, where we're going, the next evolution of this. You know what I mean? Anyway, point being, just answer your question. Since childhood, that's really, but I was absolutely obsessed with trying to figure out what was happening to me. So it led to a bunch of research, a bunch of different spiritual practices, you name it. So, real quick, I will say this because I think somebody needs to hear it, that out there in the audience probably, because sometimes we think like I did, like I thought I was chasing the knowledge, chasing the information, when in reality it was chasing me.
Right.
For example, when I was 7 years old, something happened to me that I think happens to a lot of people, is I got attacked by a disincarnate person. We call earthbound, partially demonic, you want to call it, but it attacked me. And it was horrifying and it was disconcerting and it made me want to turn off my abilities.
Yeah.
And I think that happens to a lot of us. And a lot of us we were kids, were beacons for these other entities, earthbounds. And it's almost like Sasquatch doesn't like the dogs being around. If they can't join with you and merge with you like this thing was trying to do, it couldn't. Then it tried to attack me and drive me out of the property. So, it doesn't take much to bully a 6-7-year-old kid. Oh,
right.
Good job there.
That was what I was going to say. You were so young. How traumatic for such a young child. Something to go through,
the thing is, Krista, I think that a lot of times is that we have individuals that are just horrible in life and are doing as far as deeds and negative energy.
Yep.
And they're full of hate for whatever reason, traumas, all these other things, but molesters, these other things, but then they die, they don't cross over and they turn into something worse.
Yeah. Yeah. That's scary. Very scary.
You bring up a point early, because talking about your childhood, and I've talked about this several times. I had my first Bigfoot encounter in 2018, as you're well aware of. Most people who follow me know that. But for me, my paranormal life started right around 5 or 6 years old with ghosts and the UFOs. And much like yourself, Barry, and other people that have been on the show or that I've spoken with, it seems like a lot of their experiences started as a young child, anywhere from 5, 6, 7. And at the time, like most parents, they say you're having a nightmare. You didn't see that. It's your imagination. And that's right. I'd always thought, Barry, throughout my entire life. And that was what was told to me by my parents all the time. And it wasn't until I got a little bit older, in my 20s, when I started having other experiences outside of my parents' home, that what I was seeing was real.
Yeah.
I mean, why do some people get affected at the young age? And it seems to me that people that do what we all do, a lot of people, it starts out well before they even recognize what they're going through. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. And partial that is because, the perception still at that age hasn't been fully molded. I'm a believer that when a baby is born and takes the first breath, whether it has to get the slap or whatever, but it opens its eyes and takes the first breath, the baby screams, they cry. And what I think it is that they're coming from still the other realm. And I'd say also through my regression work, it showed that too. They're still, before they come out of the womb, still connected with the other side. And then they come out of the womb and everything is so third dimensionally dense and gross that they go, "Oh my God." And then everybody starts goo goo gaga, and your perception gets molded. But in a way that's and that's similar to, like, I was talking on another show recently about those of us that can see. When you look at a child, a baby, they have this, not just the luminous cocoon, the aura, they have this sheen around it. And the older we get, we don't have that anymore. What happens to it? What happens to that glow of awareness, as I've heard it called? We've got these predators that eat it. We're food here from the very beginning for inorganic beings that put voices in our minds, feed our negative self, run around down here like, anyway, sorry.
Yeah. What you were saying, though, that makes so much sense because, as far as the children, it's not that long since they were in that other veil or whatever you want to call it. And for me, it's just, my grandson, he was like 3 years old. And he told my daughter that his granny came to him in his sleep. Well, granny was my grandma, so it'd been his great grandma, And so, and he even pointed out a picture, and I truly believe it was her, but I believe just because it wasn't that long ago that he was in that realm, I believe that. Absolutely.
And, it honestly, it frightened the other side of me. What was just more alarming is when I started doing the work with earthbound spirits. And one of the processes I do is I asked them where they joined with the client at. And, it's odd because we're not talking about the demonic here. The earthbound is the, like, mom and dad that wouldn't cross over, grandma, grandpa wouldn't cross over for whatever reason, more than it is the demonic level. Sure. So the earthbounds will be quite chatty. They've been wanting to talk to somebody. That's why they're joining with people. Right. But the amount that told me that they joined with the client, this could be a 50, 60-year-old person I work with, but they joined with the client when they were in the incubator room at the hospital. And they've always been with them. Wow. You know what I mean? And at that point, we don't even know how to disassociate ourselves from them, but we don't know they're there anyway. Sure. And most all of us, we've got several of them attached to us. I've yet to have a client that has not had any of them, no earthbounds attached. It's just part of it. Even people tell me, I've done my shadow work. I protected myself. I got my shields up. Okay. They still have them on. It's just part of our existence. It's quantum entanglement. I think it goes into all that type of science. And, anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
No, you're fine. Barry, you never have to apologize because we go all over the place. And what you talk about is it strikes home to me and a lot of people. I've never had quite the experience you had when you had an NDE and such, correct? We won't have to get in that today, but let me ask you, though, because you do a lot of work in helping people cross over, I do believe. I could be wrong. Correct me if I am. Do you think there are outside forces that prevent folks from crossing over? We've heard stories about I saw the light and then I was given the option to turn back, or something just had a hold on me that prevented me against my will. And I did hear that we have a choice when it comes that time, whether we can elect to go or not. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's true or happens, but does that make sense? Is that something that
absolutely, absolutely. You know me. I'm the weirdo that will use the entertainment references. Yeah. But movie-wise, a good one is Ghost with Demi and Patrick Swayze. But when they come out of that movie, he struggles with the thief and he gets shot, but he doesn't know it. You hear the gun go off. He runs after the cat. Then he runs back over to Demi, and then she's trying to revive him. And he's going, whoa. And he starts kind of having a flash, what they would call a partially panoramic life review. And he saw a few things they were doing with the statue and things that day. And then all of a sudden he starts looking up and the lights start coming. Mm-hmm. And then some of them were orbs too. And he goes, "What is this?"
Right.
And he started going, no, because they're looking back at her. And he started running towards her. And as he ran, the light stayed on behind him for a while, and then it went out. Yeah. I've heard earthbounds describe that to me, and they say I didn't want to go into it for various reasons. Like, hey, I hurt a bunch of people. I killed somebody, and I think I'm going to go in there and burn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The concept of hell. Right. And you've got these others, these beings that are inorganic, that are here like us. Like I said, we're food, and they start influencing us when we're earthbounds. One thing about me that you probably discussed before is, man, I never want to come forward or be on any of these platforms. I was a brother that was high. I was a master at doing the Batman stealth. I was watching everything ninja style, but I didn't even have an account on YouTube. And I had this accident, that's the near death, and it changed things where I suddenly got put on Front Street for whatever reason. Okay. So that kind of made it to where, how can I say it? It's the choice is there for us not to cross over because we have the free will. Right. Okay. And it's much stronger than what we think. But then we've got these others, and what I was going to say is, sorry, a little backtrack there, is that the second time, I didn't want anybody to know I could do earthbound spirit release. I didn't want nobody to know I was a contactee. I already got thrown out for that. I certainly didn't want people to know that I was a hypnotist. I went to a bunch of those conferences. I didn't tell anybody, you know what I mean? But I'm just watching people because I wasn't comfortable exposing that part of myself. So the second time I did an earthbound spirit release, which was somebody in my town that just convinced me to do some work with them. All right. The earthbound is telling me, I heard about you. It's only the second one I ever did, man. I said, What do you mean you heard about me? I heard you're bad.
Who, you?
Why am I bad? And I don't come on like an exorcist. I come on with cognitive behavioral. It works even better with earthbounds than it does people. Good system. And they, why am I bad? Well, because you're going to make me leave. I said, who told you that? And they'll say the others told me. I said, what others? The others that were in this body that left because you were coming. But they said it doesn't matter. They'll be back because the person isn't going to do the protections. And they're going to come back when you're gone. And that's when I was like, whoa. And that's when that's when I started getting that whole, whoa. It just blew me away a little bit. Okay, a rep before I even getting started. But it says a lot about what we are on the spirit level, on the soul level, Anyway, so hopefully that answers your question without me going too far left. But that power of choice is immense. And then there's these others, but these others are doing things like some of the others will say, well, I've been told, I was told if I work with you, I'm gonna go to the pit.
Wow.
And I'll ask, what's the pit? I don't know, but they say it's worse than this. It's darker than here, and it's already dark, but it's darker than here, and it hurts. Wow. They say it hurts. Once again, that's these beings, these inorganic beings that they're responsible for our concepts of heaven and hell, our religions, a lot of these things. It's real serious, and ways that we keep contained as beings of awareness and beings of perception. We're beings of great perception, great feats of perception, okay? And keep it at 100, okay? Haven't you ever wondered why it's as humans with our brain capacity, with our energy capacity, with our will. Why are humans not magical? Why are we so damn bestial? Why, when you're eating food with somebody that's got $1 million, they're rich, they're eating like this is the only food they're going to have?
Oh, yeah.
What is that?
That's evil.
It's the mind of the predator. It's the mind of these inorganic beings. That's what it is. That's the way the predator is always worried about being discovered eating and things of that nature. And you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of just where we're at with that. And, so can we really just go like down the rabbit hole anyway?
Sure.
You know, Rob, I was thinking about your experience, actually, your Sasquatch experience. And I'll tell you why. It's going to be navigating a little over, but I guess
we're fine.
You guys know I'm weird, so it doesn't matter, bro.
Well, you know, Barry, really quickly, we embrace the weird. I have a weird club carrying card. It's right here. It's right here. It's my court summons to go to jury duty. So we all carry the weirdo card. Everybody in the chat, everyone listens. Barry, you're a weirdo. Chris is a weirdo. We're all weirdos,
and I'm proud of it. So,
and I embrace it, and I support the weirdness. Yeah. So continue.
Right. Wait, you know what just made me think of it was that I thought about you and your encounter, and it's weird. I know I'm always weird stuff I'm looking into and stuff, and this time I started obsessing a little bit again about the Sasquatch Genome Project.
Okay.
And it's the fact that you've still got that mitochondrial mother DNA that's been traced to. They traced it to some European, but they traced it to a woman, a Middle Eastern woman. But then that nuclear DNA, which is the father and also both, is completely not even in GenBank. Wow. So and that takes us to the point of, okay, we're dealing with non-human hair that have human mitochondrial DNA. That is scientifically a human hybrid,
right?
And and it's this nuclear DNA that I think accounts for some of these paranormal activity that we hear these beings having, and these hybrids having. And it's kind of the reason why I bring that up is that they're always been described in the past as, and when you start looking into it, they look human. Okay, and the human factor to them. And it makes me wonder, like, when the one you obviously paranormal's been chasing you your whole life.
Yes. So
it was no coincidence that you saw that thing on the beach or whatever.
Right.
But it makes me wonder too, like, it's like, for example, so the difference about the Sasquatch is that why is it they respond to, and look, I'm not a religious person, all right? I have no religion, never have. I only believe in the creator, prime creator. But when I listen to testimony, I have to listen and not throw the baby out with the bathwater. You hear that people that are religious saying that they're being harassed by Sasquatch, and whether it's having wild stock stolen or whatever the case is, beaten on the walls. But when they start calling out religious names, they stop.
I've heard that.
Especially the Christian religious name, and they stop. And I mean, I hear that again and again by some people that are not religious. And we start looking at these testimonies, that the beautiful thing about the net is you can access it so much now. Why is it that they respond to the rebuking spiritually as to where a wild beast definitely does not? Okay. You got a wild boar coming at you. You can throw out all the religious names you want. You might not be.
You're gonna get you.
But I mean, it's bringing in that whole spiritual factor into it. And I know I was listening to oh gosh, what's that guy's name is? But they were even going a little further with genome, and they kept saying that they thought that they were technically Nephilium. And that's a concept that is what half earth human, have something else.
Right.
But when you start looking at things like, for example, I'm too curious about things like for this book that I have a lot of problems with, the Uranta book. But some things when it talks about spiritual, universal stuff, and maybe Uranta means earth history, some of the things they say about not just Adam and Eve, but with biological uplifters, but some of the beings that came here that were non-corporeal from space and from other dimensions, like what they say about them when they start interacting with not just human, but also earth-like angel, earth seraphim, nature spirits, and these things they started reproducing and producing like beings called midwayers, some that were primary midwayers that were completely non-physical, and you have these secondary midwayers that were partially non-physical, but also able to manifest almost like us. Okay. And then it goes into others that they call in this book the Nodite race. And I think when describing the Nodite race, it's going into what is also what we would call Nephilium now, but they were described as being these giants. And I'm not saying this book is all right, but all correct, but some of the information in it is worth, food for thought, if nothing else.
Yeah, well,
and, dealing with some these other books like Keys of Enoch, these other books that describe the non-corporeal humans that were here, not non-corporeal beings that were here. And some that, when you start looking at Kemetic information, the ones that got trapped here because the energy fields of the planet, magnetic fields, trapped them here as much as anything else. So I think it's just, when looking at your experience, what was that you experienced? Because there was a spiritual component to that. You said before you thought it had a demonic component to it.
Yeah,
so was that
like I always say, Barry, I mean, it was such a quick experience, even though it seemed like it was endless. The thing that, again, Barry, it was a human looking person covered in reddish brown hair, looked human, but distorted, disfigured. It looked like it maybe had Down syndrome or a stroke. But then, Barry, when it opened that jaw and dropped it, exposed those teeth, the eyes roll back black, and the entire face metamorphosed into what I always say to this day, a demonic figure. And then when I can't move, when I'm paralyzed, all my cognizance is gone. The colors of the day got grainy, black and white. And I had a feeling of dread, man. And my girlfriend falls into the boat, into the water. And I know I have to get her. And I'm just trying to get out of this trance or spell I'm under. How I broke free, I don't know. And I did. And then it was gone. And it went from something originally that looked harmless. It looked like a person, a Sasquatch person, I guess. Harmless, kind of was like all mundane. But then immediately it turned something that it was mind-blowing. And the experience that I had when it roared and yelled and screamed, what I felt the impact strike me. I felt the reverberation. I felt like the waves from his lungs, his vocal capacity hit me. Certainly his Cindy flipped her into the water. I thought demon, man, and for the longest time I thought that's what it was. And I got to tell you, I'm not a religious guy either. I believe in the creator. I believe in God. I'll say God, and I don't think any prayer got me out of that spell because it was just my fortitude, my mental fortitude to protect my loved one at the time and protect myself, which is what got me through it, And to this day, I don't know what it was. I say my Bigfoot encounter, but to this day, Barry, as you all know, I don't know what the hell it was. I don't.
It always struck me the morphing of the face as you described it.
Yeah.
And it's things that nature to where it, we have these, all these things that walk among us that are demonic in nature or dark in nature or negative inorganic beings, but they can start manifesting and doing things. And then we have this cognitive dissonance and other things that starts taking over. But, sometimes, I was talking earlier with someone, and sometimes it's really hard to accept that when dealing with, especially like the contact scenario phenomenon, it's a conscious event. And it's sometimes some of these beings that some of us are dealing with are not coming from Mars or from Andromeda or even another galaxy. Some of them are manifesting from consciousness. And we're interacting with them strictly through consciousness, which does take us into the black holes, the Makos, aka Akashic records and things, and beings that still exist within those mechanisms. But still, for us, it's a conscious event. We've got like two worlds right here, right now. We've got the visible one where we have us right here, where we're beings with physical body and awareness and consciousness. And there's this other Earth that is right here, a frequency away from us, that vibration different, that is beings with awareness and consciousness and no inorganic,
right,
disembodied. And, when you start dealing with that part of contact and perceptually, us being beings of awareness, you understand that other things come in and land on Earth all the time in that other Earth and are in here interacting with us constantly, and we don't perceive it. Maybe we're seeing orbs and different things, but that's real, valid when people say they see these orbs and then see beings inside of them. We talk about these Merkabahs and all these things and dream body, but really what happens when you become an inorganic being and you can actually change your conscious receptacle, that for something like intergalactic travel or interdimensional travel, that's using that whole quantum hologram I've talked about on your show before, which is using those black holes actually, and how the universe is actually the fabric of that. It's a lot like neurons, I think, in a way. Just like, that's been proven out. Anyway,
no, it's always great when you come on and talk about all these things. Like I said, this show is going to go all over the place tonight. And you brought this up, and I don't want to bring it up because it resonates. Of course, you talk about what you think about what my encounter was. And I'm not going to tell my whole story on this, but I never asked you this. I never told you this. I'm not telling the whole story. But one of the weirdest things that happened to me, and a lot, you delve into the subconscious dreams and things like that, right? And really quickly, I had this dream where I was playing cards in the casino, and I played poker with allegedly the devil, and I'm dreaming this, and he beat me with 3 6s. And I did a live show right after that because I was so scared. My brother was in Vegas and watched the show, this, that, and the other. And during this dream, though, I will tell you this. During the dream, I walked out of the poker parlor, and I'm walking down this hallway. And you mentioned this resonates because I got to bring this up, and I hate doing this all the time. I do it once in a while. The person that beat me in poker was a very creepy looking guy. He looked like the guy from Phantasm, the Crypt Keeper. And he put his hand on my shoulder and he goes, I'm the devil. I'm the devil. And this is a vivid dream, man. I don't know if I told you this. And he said, then he morphed into my dad. And he grabbed me by the arms. My dad I have these weird dreams. My dad always protects me and takes me out of these dreams. But it was so vivid. But listen, and he pulls me. He says, I'm taking you to the Lake of Fire. And it was my dad. Then he morphed back into that crazy looking phantasm looking creepy guy. I woke up, did a show. But when I woke up, Barry, I was sweating and the bottoms of my feet were on fire, were hot. And then I got a call from my brother and sister-in-law who were in Las Vegas, who saw my live show just haphazardly because it was just a random Rob frantic and wanted to air my thoughts to everybody. Were you in Vegas? You just did a show. Are you making this up? Are you in Vegas? I go, well, no. They went to the place where I played poker, and one of the bartenders said he saw me there that night. The night I had the dream. Barry, what the hell was that? Did I astral project? Was I there? Really?
I can't answer that part, but I can tell you what I think you encountered. First thing is, I got to have a little levity in here with your story, okay? I don't know about you, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. First, I think you were pouring drinks for ghosts, and now you're playing poker with the devil?
Yes, right, Barry. What's wrong with me, man?
You're doing some protections, brother.
No, that's what Krista said. Krista says, I got to get you iron. Krista told me to get iron to put under my bed.
Oh,
yeah, but no, I love the levity, but this like the weirdness. I have high weirdness.
So when we're in the dreamscape, okay, is that you've got these inorganic beings and these other being creatures that jump in our field of awareness, and since they're masters of perception, they use the holographic principle to actually meld into our dreams, okay, and what happened there is. A lot of times, like one type that like they used to call the allies are normally show up in your dream as like a foreign object, something that does not make sense in your field of awareness. Okay. But then you've got the others, the ones that are more stronger, the more negative, the more quote unquote demonic, whatever you want to call them. And they show up in our dreams as people we know usually and people we love. Or they show themselves as people we love. So that tells me that's one of the things you were dealing with there, definitely. And that's like, to me, you're describing like a type of incubus attack or something to that, deal. And when you start dealing with those casinos, man, there's a lot of dark energy in this whole places. And it's weird because there's so much damn oxygen in there. You feel like you're on cloud number 9, but yet the energy in there is very...
It's very, I don't know. It's a weird energy. It's the weirdest experience of anybody's life. You don't know what time it is. You think it's always daytime. And the oxygen is pumped to beyond belief. And you're never sleepy, never.
Something else spiritually is that, there are whole practices that involved making the dream body, the energy body, the dream body as full cognitive awareness and abilities into the dream body, and then making it, having the ability to manifest it out here in the third dimension. Okay. And sometimes that can happen spontaneously, like spontaneous bilocation. And that's kind of maybe what you've experienced. You had happened where somebody else said they saw you, because the dream body can be perceived. And it's weird. Like, for example, someone like Carlos Castaneda, when he had this one guy, Don Hanero was one of his teachers, and this cat started jumping around these waterfalls and doing things that would make Castaneda lose control of his bowels. They'd be laughing at him. But later on in that series, his other teacher, Juan Mattis, tells him, it's so weird because you have the configuration of somebody to be able to see, but I know you can't see. Because if you could have seen Hanero, what he was really doing, he was in his dream body, his energy body, that doesn't conform to the physical parameters of this world. And he was he would have seen, if you could see, you would have seen he was a glowing ball jumping around, a ball of energy, but you can't see. So you saw him doing things that you couldn't accept that made you crap on yourself. School of hard knocks here on Earth, man.
Best hard knocks, and I hate talking about myself because I sometimes do, but I only do when someone brings up something that spurs on, because much like you and Chris and everybody else, I seek answers, and you're a great guy for answers. I don't think I told you that, but that honestly got happened last June, and for the life of me, what really freaked me out is that people ID'd me as being there, Barry, when I was sitting home in Michigan, man. And my brother and sister happened to be in Vegas. So it was all totally coincidence. They happened to turn me on at 2:00 in the morning.
That would be an example of bilocation, to a degree. And that's between your physical body still being here, the dream body being there. And, it's amazing. I'm glad to see it's starting to get noticed more now, is how often the bilocation happens during the abduction, the contact scenario. Yeah. And what I'm saying that is that, they're actually taking your dream body, your energy body. And I've seen this when I was a kid, being on one of these craft, I see these people going to the end of the deck and touching the light that's coming off the engine, coming through the column. They're touching that light, but they're like phased out. I can kind of see through them. Okay. But guess what? I'm there to get about to sick and throw up. They weren't being affected by that temporal aphasia, that sickness like I was. So that's why a lot of times, why I don't dismiss people when they say they had the astral experiences or things like that, because when you're dealing with creatures from another universe or another dimension or just another vibration, that's one way you're going to experience it. It's in an astral or a dream type of fashion. So, that's.
I hear you, and I appreciate your information. And Chris Berry, let's switch it over to some cryptids, some Sasquatch, some Dogman, maybe even some reptilians. And I got to do something for my mom really quick. I'll be back in 30 seconds. We'll get the show rolling and change directions. Barry Littleton, everybody, simply say Barry Littleton on YouTube and subscribe. Do yourself that favor. I'll be back in 30 seconds.
Yep. I got a question on the dreams, though. Like when people have nightmares and stuff, I always feel like that it's truly like, if they dream about a demonic entity, I don't believe it's such a dream. I believe like that true demonic entity is actually there trying to, whatever it is with that person, get more in tune with that person. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, when I was younger, I would try to go through all these quote unquote gates of dreaming. And for me, man, they were difficult as heck because I'm very aware here, can do things here at third, but I had to really work on gaining what they call dream attention. Okay. And, and once you go through the gates, it's a matter of transferring your cognitive abilities into the dream body. So, but really when you get done with all that, you find out really that the last thing is that you're really just standing there in the middle of nothing but electron impulse, a brain electron impulse that is actually making these phantasmagorical images. And once you get past that and see past that, it's a matter of seeing then in your field of awareness how many different energy generating beings are in your field of awareness. And they're the ones that hide in the illusion of our dreamscape. You know what I mean? So I would agree with what you're saying, absolutely. But that's more their realm, the realm of the inorganic, the realm of the non-physical. They're at home there. We're the ones that are kind of walking around because so much of our energy is diverted to just paying these bills, taking care of the kids, going to school, preparing food. I mean, going to work, that takes so much of our energy that we have very little free energy that can be used for cognitive dreaming, or the things that are in deep meditation, or things like delta state or theta state, what we hit in hypnosis. When I get done with the session, a lot of times it's interesting. A person will, wonder like, why are we like that all the time? I don't know. It's a block.
I was just wondering about that because I had a dream years ago that, a friend of mine, he's the one that made the Sally House famous. And he had told me, never go by there. Don't go in there. Just don't even drive by there. And so years, and he and I have a weird connection. It's like he's my brother from another mother. Like, I feel like, we've talked about this. We're soul siblings. And we, I had this dream that this demonic entity walked me through this house. I've never been there. Like little details that, it's been on TV shows and stuff, yes, but little details about the house that aren't on TV shows. Like I saw all this and I reported it back to him. And I feel at that time that because he was, it was a demonic entity. Well, it is a demonic entity that's at that house that still has a touch with him. It's in touch with him. And I feel like these entities knowing our connection, like was trying to influence me. I believe that.
Well, definitely. Sound like they had a portal there to do it to on that property.
Yeah. And so I feel like they were trying to get me to come there to, put my guard down and it was just the weirdest dream. And I don't really believe it was such a dream though. That's why I'd asked you about the demonic entities. So I appreciate you answering for me.
Yeah. Oh, no problem. No problem. And they got some things that got, haunted land like that. The land that's got so much blood on it, or cursed land that, you've got those demonic entities that just fester there.
Yeah.
Or sadly, you know, in hospitals or jails,
Right.
jails are really bad.
Yeah.
You know, so but when you start dealing with these beings that can actually come through, and since we're dreaming, we're in the energy dream body, but they can start getting with us and pulling us and using their abilities to, you know, it's very, very interesting. Yeah, that definitely. So I'd have to agree with that.
Yep. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Real quick, can I say something real quick? Lil Patty, I'm sorry I missed your question. If you could re-ask it again, and I will star it. I apologize. And happy birthday, Jason.
Jason says, Jason Finch, happy birthday, Jason.
It's his birthday, so.
Always fascinating with Barry, everybody. Go check out his channel, Barry Littleton, on YouTube. It's really, Barry's got great variety. That's why I love having Barry on. Wealth of knowledge in all the fields. And Barry, we never spoke on this. And really on this show, we don't talk much about this. I don't know what the extent of your knowledge is. We know the alien grays, you know, this, that, and the other we always hear about. But one of the things that scares a lot of people, and I don't know if they're real or where they come from. I don't know. What's your thoughts on these reptilians that we hear so much about lately? I mean, are they really an alien? Is this something that, man, that's out there we should be afraid of, or what's going on with that?
Well, it's to say the very least, it's like the hottest topic amongst extraterrestrial beings you can get right now. And you've got, you know, I've heard so many different things, but what I'd heard when I was much younger is the one I kind of stick with, is that you had those reptiles that were here of Earth, and like the one like the Hadrosaurus and things like that would have evolved into this, and these beings that are connected to that. But they were the Earth beings. And it would happen is you get these others coming from other dimensions, and of course Draco is a big one. And then they start interacting with the Earth Saurians and change them into much more nefarious species with these different classifications. And, you know, I think that sometimes it's too easy for us just to blame reptilians for things. And I say that because we don't know really that much about them either. And when I started really reaching out, like, okay, for example, I had questions. Ray Hernandez's survey that they have for experiencers, really good.
Now, really quickly, Barry, who is Ray Fernandez again?
Ray Hernandez. He runs a place called CCRI, Conscious Research Institute. Used to be called Free Foundation for Research Extraterrestrial. That was done by, because he was friends with Edgar Mitchell, and Edgar Mitchell had found a thing called Quantrek, and Quantrek is actually, he's talking about some of the things they did when they went to the moon, and before, you know, they were trained to remote view before they went to the moon. So it's things like that that he talks about quite a bit. And Ray Hernandez had started this and went further, and they put together this great survey for contactees and experiencers that went worldwide. And it was like a 3-phase, really advanced, dealt with these scholars and stuff, academics. So it was good. But anyway, point being that one of the questions that they do graphs for and everything, it was about the reptilians. Was your experience negative, positive, or unknown? And automatically you think out of whatever, like I had to skip that question. I had a lot of experiences, but never with them. Okay. And I'm cool with that too, man.
No kidding.
But you know, a lot of people would say, you know, just on this, put it to this, the negative part of this, the scale was quite small, and the positive was a little bigger, or much bigger, but the unknown neutral was really big. And I had to fill out why. So I asked Ray, I said, you know, why is that? He said, Barry, a lot of people said the same thing, is that the reptiles didn't really do anything to them, didn't hurt them, but just witnessing them physically was too much.
Sure.
Just too frightening. But they didn't do anything. They didn't hurt them. They might have departed information or something like that. So I don't want you to think I'm pro-reptilian. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying just a lot of the data and the information we get is skewed. Because, you know, it's, you know, when people say, I'm Mr. Godzilla, it's not that.
Barry Littleton is pro-reptilian. You heard it first on BMR Show.
That's how rumors get spread now.
Yeah, I know. Come on.
But I think that when dealing with that, though, and the different species of them, like, because Credo Mutua and David Icke really put that on the map. And Credo was the first one I ever heard that talked about the different classifications of them, the ones with the wings and the ones with the more workers with the rocks, like a certain dinosaur we had that have that. And you see actually some even ancient African tribes had the same thing they were doing with the head, actually, with some of the bindings. Quite interesting. So anyway, that's all I'd say about that. But I think that we put sometimes too much emphasis on that. Like, for example, I was told once, somebody had said, it was like, if I was doing a regression, the person that said that how the reptilians lack the free will ability to stop from being possessed by dark entities. Mm-hmm. That it was really much easier for them to be possessed. And it's just one of those things. Now, when dealing with that, so does that mean, like our real enemy is it being decoyed with the reptilian thing? Because I'll tell you, a lot of these beings they're non-corporeal. Our worst enemies here, they're non-corporeal. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times when people tell me they encounter one of these reptilians, it wasn't physical. It was in the astral, in the dream. And I'm not saying it's not real, but that's much more ability for other beings to mask what they are and to present something to you. So again, it's just food for thought, I know. But and then something we should throw in there too, Rob, is Krista, we have also the Nagas and the serpents that have been here, the serpent races. And especially we start looking at ancient India and those temples that are getting just destroyed now in that India-Pakistani war. I mean, a lot of those ancient temples are getting destroyed. It's a shame. But that's where you have a lot of the information about the Nagas exists.
So is the Naga supposed to allegedly from another world?
Yeah, I've seen another dimension, another world, but you've got different ones. But you've got, oh gosh, I remember the name of the one that's got the seven snakes.
Medusa?
No.
I was seeing that.
The seven snakes.
I know somebody that told me they killed Medusa in a past life. I was like, oh man, what am I to say? I don't know.
I hear you.
I was like, were you Harry Hamlin? Clash of the Titans,
Right.
I heard you couldn't even look at Medusa because she would turn you into stone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there's always the reptiles been there in a lot of our folklores and things in history. When I was younger, I read a book is a small book by the poet P.D. Ouspensky. It was called Talks with the Devil. Mm-hmm. And in there, it's like a channeling, I guess. And there's this demonic force that claims to be millions, if not billions of years old. Mm-hmm. And the first thing it says, of course, is, oh, God isn't real. God doesn't exist. But when we would try to attack Adam and Eve, we try to attack them at their night in garden when they're meditating or whatever. And this pink cloud will come surround them and take them across this abyss. Mm-hmm. And there's abyss between us and the other side that we can't cross. Mm-hmm. I just found that quite interesting as far as concepts go, and and food for thought. Yeah. They said it said the way that they finally infiltrated was they got Eve to eat meat. That's what it said in that book. But when looking at this book here, since we're going to the rabbit hole, the Ranta book, when it talks about, I've talked about this before, an Adam and Eve in this book.
Yeah.
Okay, it calls them biological uplifters. And it says that they come from a place called Edentia that's actually near Galactic Center. And there are two of these beings dispatched to every planetary sphere that reaches a certain part of evolution. And what they were here to do, this biological uplifting. And then it describes this training that they have to do before they can, when they get here, before they can take over. Okay. And it's very specific. And, you know, when you start looking at those Sumerian tablets, I've done a video on this. You've got quote unquote Inky, and Inky you've got Inky and his wife going through some type of ceremony. And then there's one that is showing him with all these waterfalls coming off of these fish in them. I don't think that's supposed to be fish. I think it's supposed to be sperm, showing he's the god of sperm in terms of a biological uplifter, like it's said in this book. Okay, now take it a step forward. It's interesting because you can see that, but then it talks about when Adam and Eve had to fall with some of the inorganic spiritual light beings that were fallen over here. Okay, they fall with them, but then they stop having access to these special herbs that they brought here with them that made them more mortal. Okay, and then they talk about how there's this genetic plasm that Adam, quote unquote Inky, was given. The number of women they give to him in this book, it's 1,682. Anybody's got this book, it's page 851. Okay, and that they were given to carry on this Adamic bloodline. Right now, when you start looking at those Sumerian tablets, you've got this Inky being brought a woman that is the person bringing this woman to him. The woman fits about between the elbow and the hand, right there. It's like they're handing over this woman to him. Wow. They're giants, obviously. But then in the back of this same one, you have another giant on his knees pulling levers on what looks like these big test tubes. They're showing you what that book is saying, I'm pretty sure. I mean, again, it's food for thought. You know, I mean, it's worth looking at, if nothing else, but taking them as biological uplifters instead of the first man and woman, that ridiculous BS story, you know, I mean, but as far as the different beings that have come here from other realms, other dimensions, or just from right here on Earth, you know, talk about that a lot right now. Gosh, that book, Cryptoterrestrials, right here. Oh, what do you know, right here on top? Jeez, this must be a good book. I never have anything. This book right here. They were talking about everybody talks about Max Spears, but nobody talks about this guy. And his name was Mac Toonies. And he wrote this book, Cryptoterrestrials, and the Cryptoterrestrial Hypothesis, and he met a horrible death like almost right after. Oh, okay. Wow. But what he's saying, the Cryptoterrestrials are beings that live right here on Earth, a race that lives right here on Earth, and the decoy they use is outer space and aliens. And that's one that a lot of demonic forces use, the cloak of abduction. Not that can't be bad too, but it's a good cloak for an inorganic being who's using your cognitive dissonance to sexually assault you, to physically assault you, to steal your energy. These alien mind scans, these telepathic hypnosis. But what he's saying here is that these beings sometimes we'll see their technology. Like, for example, do you remember when that meteor hit Russia, like probably 10 years ago? It was on film. You see this meteor streak across the city in Russia.
I don't. About a decade ago? Yeah, I remember something about that, but I didn't follow up on that. I don't even know what the outcome was.
Yeah, it was a big one, but you can see in some footage before that, another object impacts it. And it looks like either another meteor or that sometimes looks like plasma. That's, technology from these beings. When we see some of these UFOs, people say, oh, it's our stuff. It's our stuff. Or it's from outer space. A lot of times it's them and they're from here. They live here. They're on this planet. Wow. There's food for thought about just little stuff like that.
That's another new one now. Cryptoterrestrials. Yeah,
Cryptoterrestrial Hypothesis. It's a good one, but explains a lot as what we hear things now. We hear people talking about breakaway civilizations in the inner Earth and things of that nature. But when you start dealing with Cryptoterrestrials, it accounts for some of that too. What would be the inner Earth? Some of these species that are right here working with us. you know, and not to mention the problem that we've got with the organisms that come here from space that are hostile.
You know,
or microbiology wise.
Microbiology, and you mentioned the inner Earth. Do you think that there's? Let me ask you this, Barry. Inner Earth. There's many ways we can go with this. I've heard many different theories, hypotheses, this, that, and the other. Do you think, though? I mean, your thoughts, food for thought, as you would always say. Do you think there are things in the inner Earth, Barry, that are just like maybe in the depths of the ocean or the fringes of space? You think, once again, there's something in the inner Earth?
I think the ocean definitely. During the time I was having experiences when I was younger, I asked about the inner Earth. I was shown a thing that was more of how within the inner Earth, before you get so far that you've got these catacombs almost. And inside some of these catacombs, you have cities or bases. Okay, and that's the way that was shown to me. And it kind of, in some ways, confirms some things like Phil Snyder had said. He talks about more of the man-made ones, but he talks about others too, other inner Earth bases and things. So I think that's one, okay? And I know everybody talks about immediately Admiral Byrd and how he saw the inner Earth and all that, the sun and all that. And that's an interesting story, and I'm not saying that's not untrue either. But when we start dealing with the actual structure scientifically of the inner Earth, there is something called the deep biosphere. And the deep biosphere contains not just a ton of liquid, but underneath that or above that, there is also 98% of Earth's undiscovered bacteria exists there, and fungal also. And a lot of it is what's called microbial black matter, microbial dark matter. That's because it's melanin dominant. And when you start paying attention to stuff like that, when we're dealing with radiotropic fungus and things like that converts gamma radiation into the growth cycle. And, something else I've been talking with people about is what's called the ISIS thesis, which is that we have something in our body called bacterial phage that can be activated when we die to skip the death process and the loss of memory during death process. And it's changing this bacterial phage from something that's a system of reproduction that viruses use called misogenetic reproduction, which is where actually the virus injects something into a bacteria, and then it goes dormant. But then you've got the lysistic, lystic, LYSTIC. And lysistic is when actually it interjects its code, but then it bursts and it reproduces the virus. Reason why I bring this up is because, our quote unquote junk DNA is mostly fungal and bacterial and viruses, especially viruses. It's viral, a lot of our junk DNA. So
you're talking about the junk, our junk DNA in our bodies and our makeup, our structure.
If you look that up, a lot of that is viral. And I mean, it's encoded, that we've encoded into our DNA. We have something else called a microcloud, and the microcloud exists 36 inches outside of our body, which is DNA and bacteria. Okay, and bacteria and virus also. And in that way, so it makes me always wonder when I would see, a glow on somebody, was it the glow of awareness or was it the glow of this bacteria and the microcloud? And if you think about what took out those cats in, you remember that old War of the Worlds? Their ships are impervious to everything. They couldn't handle the microcloud. When they come out of those ships, man, the microcloud, they developed, got them quick, took them out. But so but just anyway, just things like that. I mean, just stuff like that. I bring up just people to be aware of, and or stuff like I was listening to somebody misquote. There's a book, Body Electric. And in that, what the individual is saying, the two gentlemen they're saying is actually ultimately how to reproduce actually limbs, not just heal, but reproduce limbs in the way salamanders do.
Sure.
Through actual electric stimulation. It's real interesting when we start dealing with that type of science and where we could go when dealing with xenobots, and not just nanobots, but xenobots. It's real interesting.
It is interesting. It's way over my head, but it's real interesting.
Yeah. That's the thing, Barry. And again, Krista, Barry is a pay grade above us with his intelligence.
Absolutely.
But, Barry, you're so great. So, Barry, when we look at the entire complex of the universe, inner Earth, the oceans, outer space, this organism that surrounds our 36 inches outside of our body, or whatever you said it was. There's so many things going on. I mean, we just have no idea what's out there, do we, Barry? I mean, number one, I will say this. I think everything is connected, whether we're talking the paranormal, the cryptids, outer space, aliens, paranormal ghosts. I mean, I think it's all kind of related in a different fashion, a different realm. So we walk in probably many different planes and realms every day and don't even realize it. Or do we not? Or is that like kind of just a false statement?
What do you mean? What do you mean? Sorry, walk around.
Yeah, we walk around every day. Like you hear stories about people, they're walking in the forest and all of a sudden they don't know where they're at. Or I've had these weird dreams that seem like they're real. And someone said they see me somewhere when I was not. I've even had people tell me they've seen me in pictures and they've seen me when I'm not there. Or, I've seen a Sasquatch, but what I saw to the other person looked like a Bambi. And it's just, is it all perception? Is it all that? Is it every single person that walks in a different plane? And I'm not saying out of body experiences or different realms here on the planet Earth, but why is it that everybody can look at an object and see something differently from their perspective, whether it's a paranormal subject, a cryptid subject, having a dream, whatever. It just seems like everything is just the same but different.
Well, that's a long, deep question. I mean, it goes, for several different ways. One is how the brain actually perceives images for each one of us. You know what I mean? And two would be, do you have a functional pineal gland? Are you able to actually see, and it's things like something called looking techniques or stop techniques. And what stop techniques are actually stopping the eyes. And once you start, the eye is the most active part of the body. But once you start them and still them, that energy has to find another pathway. And the next pathway is the pineal gland, And in that same way,
now that's what they say. They call that the third eye, correct, Barry? I mean, I know that answer, but for the people out there.
Yeah. And for those that have the ability to quote unquote see with that and have it non-calcified, have that ability. So that's, but it's also a matter of, I guess, how you interpret if you can see energy directly, because really seeing and clairvoyantly, quote unquote, seeing is really seeing energy directly and then interpreting it from there, so that's got a lot to do with how people perceive things. And you've got things right now that are straight up bleeding through, the whatever we want to call them, frequencies, vibrations, they're very close right now, some of them.
Yeah.
And you've also got certain weapons that have been used on this planet that have left holes around here. And then you've got scientists that are trying to weaponize these holes and weaponize these portals. So, I mean, it's like you got other institutions and places that are in the private sector that are working on real-time controlled technology. Wow. And I'm not even going as far as things like everybody talks right now, Montauk or Project Pegasus. I mean, you can just go straight up the work that's being done on closed time-like curves and stuff like that and see a whole other thing that they're doing. Or people trying to put real-time reactors out and patents with them, with these quantum computers. It's, you know, so in that way, that's why I think that we all can perceive things different. There's like a million reasons right now. That's why. So I guess I can't really answer that question as good as I can.
It's kind of convoluted because you asked me and I was trying to put it together and I couldn't. I just threw that. I just was thinking about it. But why is it, though? It's a more basic question. Why is it that people that research the paranormal, the cryptid, whatever phenomena you're into, why is it that people that are like unlike me, they're out there in the field 20 years, Barry, 25, 30 years, and they have a love of Sasquatch, and all they can find is a broken tree limb, maybe hear a whoop, maybe get an imprint. But a dude that growing up throughout my life has seen all the phenomenon, pretty much so to present day, and I'm not out there looking for it, but yet I can see it. And guys that are dedicating themselves to finding these things, Barry, can't. Right. And all I have to do is go in my backyard, dude.
You know, ultimately, that's got to do with a lot of things. I think that's got a lot to do with your soul, your soul makeup, your soul complex, and also DNA too. DNA is a lot more than what we're told. Okay, and some of these things, when it starts coming into quantum entanglement and all linked together, that's why, like, for example, like when I went out to that place out there, that ranch in Washington, I went out there and got blasted. I mean, the very first day I was out there, and I'm not a young cat, man. So I didn't think, I was at a point to where I go through all these experiences to just stop my world. Like when I was younger, I thought I was past that. And I go out there and just got blasted. You already know that I wasn't 100% sure about Sasquatch till I went out there. Sure. I mean, of course I saw Liberty Boy and I had extraterrestrial in contact most all my life, but that's not the same as Sasquatch. And then I was messed up because of Bigfoot and Wild Boy, all that stuff, and then lurch in the body, and it does a deal to me. But I went out there someplace so remote. And now I don't question when people that are indigenous to those areas start saying stuff like that, talking about Sasquatch, because they touched my life, even though I didn't technically see one. You know what I mean? Which is a little disappointing, but I'm kind of all right with that too. Because it comes down to, like your experience, Rob. It's not like they wear these signs. Hey, I'm good Sasquatch. Hey, I'm a bad one. It's not. Yeah. You don't know what you're dealing with there, and they don't like most of them. They don't like people for the most part.
No, they don't.
Like some of the stories I hear, like the stories of some of them through Mind Speak were warring experiencers of the Sasquatch that have red eyes, and I've always found that so bizarre. What is with the red eye shine? That to me, there was. What have we seen entertainment-wise that has the red eyes like that?
Like demonic type stuff.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, you know what I think of?
What's that?
The cyborgs, the Terminators.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
And I believe that, like, for example, the Gugwe and the Janoska, I think those are introduced species that are to discredit the ones that are like the Patty types.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I heard about some things like the places in Oklahoma and Texas. I haven't heard about any more of it lately, but they were saying some of the more type 1 or the Patty types that will do the trading with you and are more interested in hiding away from people were being driven out of these areas. And these others that these gentlemen kept calling them monsters. And they said they look more like the Gugwe with the baboon type of and that they were just monsters. And they're saying they're starting to see, they used to be always solitary, now they're starting to see them in clans. They were driving the others out. I think those are introduced species from somewhere, one of these labs, or and having dealing with Jessica and the remote views stuff I've given her. Those labs go, brother. They go back further back than biblical times. We know that.
Man, okay, Barry. Labs. One of my favorite topics. Some of these cryptids. Let's not even call them cryptids, Barry. Let's call them governmental scientists gone bad, like Girls Gone Wild.
What are you watching? They're girls.
I remember that. That's from the 80s. Man, I'm a kid. I'm a product of the 80s. Lab experiments gone bad, right? Lab experiments gone bad. They're out there, aren't they? Barry, I believe that there are lab experiments gone bad, man. I think that we've done things throughout decades and centuries. We've created things and released them into the wilderness, or they've escaped, or we screwed up something, right? And hey, we don't know how to kill it or get rid of it, so they just release it. And then we have the 411 pops up, and it's not always Sasquatch. It's not, it's a combination of everything. Mm-hmm. Hey, so I believe, lab experiments gone bad. That should be a new video we should make, Krista. Lab experiments.
With the theme of the Girls Gone Wild.
Yeah, right. Little bikini. Like how the chick in the bikini.
I remember the old men sitting there. What are you watching? They're college girls. And the girls, they're college girls. And they've gone wild, dude. Oh, man. I'll say something you wipe my mind clean with that one, man.
I clean everybody, that's the first thing that came in my mind.
The labs thing, okay?
Yeah.
Like when it comes to, because I can see like clairvoyant psychically, but I'm not a remote viewer. That's not one of the things I do. And that system anyway. And so, I give our friend Jessica, I give her those targets, and some of them were kind of rough, and one of them was the missing 411, and two of them, and that one, and also with that was, especially I was interested in the water deaths, because the autopsy of some of those water deaths, the chemical tests showed that some of those people had like 25 times of GHB in your body that you could get from like a date from a club. So ultimately, they were probably still alive when they got dropped in that water, and they drowned because they couldn't move. So I was just curious. So what is the origin of these? So that was the target. And the amount of times that these labs had come up, some of them even accessible by submarine only, really blew me away. Okay. And that, for example, and these were facilities with some human, some others, it was dark places, dark laboratories. And, I think that when dealing with that and the human component also, it gets really dangerous. And are you too familiar with who Credo Mutua is?
I'm not.
Credo Mutua was Zulu, was called a Sangoma. It's like a historian, a medicine man for several tribes, but the Zulu especially. Okay. And he talked about one of the things that he had to do. He talked about a lot about these mandingos or mandinga, and those are what we would call grays. And, I took an interest in that, and that's been a long time ago because I didn't think that really melanin dominant people had to deal with the grays that much. And some things we've got culturally, we hear different things, But he describes one of the things they had to do to become a Sangoma is to eat a part of a gray. And he describes what the grays look like underneath these suits. They're these pink things. And how and it's like hallucinogenic more than ayahuasca. That when you first eat it, you get so sick that you about die. But those that don't die go through this euphoria for so long after that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But he also described being abducted and being in this lab. And he kept saying that these mandingos, these grays, he said they're us from the future. That's why they can walk around down here.
Yes.
And why he kept saying that during this abduction, he felt the only thing he felt that some of these grays were taking pleasure from torturing him.
Wow.
But then when the experience is over, he's wandering around between villages with no clothes on and no shoes. His boots are gone. Or his boots and like clothes and his boots are gone now. And he's disoriented, and people kind of saved his life. But he described the exact things that went along with the 411 combined with the data that Jessica had. And I thought that was just really a trip. So when everybody listened to what Credo's saying, when he's talking about all those things about grays and them coming from the future, and it's, I think it's worth a listen. Yeah. And what he says about the Nomo also.
Mm-hmm. Wow. There's a quick question I wanted to ask you, because little Patty had to ask it twice because I missed it the first time.
Sorry.
She says, do you think that you have had encounters as a child and you don't remember it, but know it happened? It's a good question.
Does she think that, or
she's asking you? She's asking you if you've had that happen, but you don't remember it, but you just know it did.
I remember mine. Because I would wake up not at home, and you wake up on one of those craft. It's unmistakable. And what happened to me was physical. So, and then when I got older, I had to put together other things. Like, for example, I met an individual that it gave me, I thought I had it up here. This rock right here actually looks like a river stone. But I was a kid. He had given me this rock, and my mother was an antique collector. And I would have to go when she went junking, as she called it sometimes. And she went into this antique mall or this antique shop. And, I found I saw this rock in this waterfall thing. And I wanted, because it looked like a stone from a movie I was watching, or TV show I was watching after school called Under the Mountain on Nickelodeon. And the dude was from another galaxy, and he was here fighting these mud creatures. Anyway, he had these weapons that were actually looked similar to this, but they were these rocks. They were telepathic, so I wanted it. And this individual approached me that was back in the back, and he winds up giving me this rock and asked me to join the Mineral and Gem Society. Later, when I got older, I had a seer I would go see named a White Dove. I was about 30, and she started talking about the UFO I saw with a parent, and that my friend down there gave me something. And I'm like, man, I ain't seen no shit with a parent, and don't get into the New Age thing so much, right? New Age freak, and kind of just dismissed it to a degree. And she's telling me, she said, you did see a ship with a parent, and you just can't remember it. But you thought it was just a scout mission, but they were there because of you. They were watching you. And she's telling me something like, yeah, right. Then a few years after that, I have an experience with my mother. She's going to throw out my Omni magazine. She looks at the UFOs on there and said, that's like the one we saw. I said, what? And it skipped my mind. I had to get her to really elaborate on what happened. To the point where I told my brothers are much older than me, and I told my older brother, I said, it's like I didn't see that thing or something. Hell yeah, you saw it, man. You and Mama talked me to death when I come home about it. You definitely saw it. And the fact that I couldn't remember it, I got a good memory, okay? And this was prior to my accident and all that. I still got one, but before any of that. And she's looking at me going, you, Mr. Creepy Star Trek memory, you remember everything. You don't remember seeing that UFO? And I had to really kind of go back and then kind of get back. That's why I finally decided to get my first regression, because I wanted to see what the ship looked like closer than what I could remember, just so I could get a sketch of it done. And then during the regression, I got way more than I bargained for.
Wow.
Yeah,
to find out they actually bilocated me during that experience. And there's a guy on there. I've got all this on my YouTube channel. Sorry, I'm going to pull out the pictures. Yeah. But
by the way, Barry. By the way, everybody that's in here, 91 of you so far.
Right,
Barry Littleton on YouTube. Just type in Barry Littleton on your YouTube browser, and you'll get it. And I do have the link posted in the description.
It's under my name too. I think I got it there.
Barry, yeah.
The link is there. Yeah, but anyway, point being, and and I'll be honest, man, I had to eat a little bit of crow, okay, because I had been somewhat verbal about how all the Pleiadians look like Fabio and Christy Brinkley. And, I never see no black extraterrestrials, so I cracked on that a few times, but I didn't realize, that how much I had interacted with these Nordics before too, and because this individual that gave me this rock was on that ship.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, just give a little bit of change in the mullet. You had a mullet like you remember the second season of Knight Rider. David Hasselhoff had this mullet, man, and the dude was wearing his hair like that, as a mullet like that. The first thing he comes up to me while I'm in that shop, and this shop, I'm not in danger. I mean, my mother's she's a collector, but she's just I'm in eyesight. You know what I mean? I'm just on the other side of the store. Yeah. And he comes up to me. He goes, "Young man, do you think igneous rocks are metamorphic by nature?" And I said, "Yeah." I was still a kid. I said, "Yeah. But it takes millions of years. It needs to be like Lou Ferrigno and Bill Bixby. It needs to be immediate." And he's looking at me, he starts laughing, going, "It doesn't work like that." And my question to you is this. Who in the hell do you know would come up and say something like that to a 7-year-old kid unless you know that what they're into? Right. At that time, my brother just come back from LA and he was laughing about because I was boiling rocks, boiling sandstone and freezing it too, trying to get it to metamorphosize into quartz. And I didn't quite have it right now, but I was giving it a shot, So, but I mean, why? Who would know that? You know what I mean? So it's just little things like that, and that's one of the individual. I termed that guy one of the charters.
Yeah. And
they're charters because for those of us that are lifetime contactees, it used to be, I think it's much more frequent now, but it used to be about every 7 years, one of these individuals will come around. And they look human, okay? It's nothing like I'm going to say, "Hey, are you from another star system or another planet?" It's not like that. But their energy, if you feel energy, pushes you. Not in a way like, not like in a way with somebody erratic like ADHD, not like that. But I mean, when I say pushes us, like, as humans, if we don't exterminate ourselves in maybe about the next 2,000 years, 3,000 years, what will we be like before we change our container of consciousness to something different? Well, whether it's high energy plasma or whatever, they feel like that. Well, to me, anyway, since it's coming forward, when mentioning that, when they've approached me, it's always in a public place. They come at like a bus station or a library or somewhere. They walk up to you and just I think it's the Christian Bible that says often people entertained angels and been unaware of it. I think the same goes with these type of charters too. And what happens is you're in a public place and all of a sudden somebody comes out of the crowd and they come up to you and they say some heavy crap. They say some heavy crap. You're like, whoa. It kind of stops your world, and they carry on for a second, and they're gone, man. They slip back in the crowd, and they're gone. You know who they are, where they came from, but it pushed your perception forward. I think these are those charters. And when I first came forward in 2014 talking about that, I got more responses concerning those charters than almost anything else I've talked about. So, it's food for thought.
Absolutely.
It's always food with thought with Barry. And I got to ask you this, because you just spurred on something. You just mentioned you threw out the random number 2,000 years if we're extinct. Who knows what that number is? But let me ask you this, though. And you mentioned something else a little earlier on that I tried to remember and retain. Do you think that actually, looking at it this way, we're human beings? However, Do you think that perhaps Barry, Krista, everyone in chat, do you think that maybe we're aliens from the future?
No, but from the past, maybe. I'll tell you what, before I know, so I'll let you go, Chris. But I think that in reality, I question our whole evolution theory. And I think that Homo sapien goes way before this planet and used to be somebody galactically. And that we're quite powerful, and all that has been convoluted here on this planet, just like a school of hard knocks prison planet. I think that we're not told how powerful humanity really is. And the reason why, I'll say this real quick, all right? And I mentioned before this regression I did, the individual was having nightmares, actually night terrors, because as a child they were floating above their house. And what was happening is they were having these experiences where these beings were levitating them onto the craft, and they were taking sperm samples and stuff like that. But then when that was over, they started still taking them up, but they were taking them strictly their energy body then, and leaving their human body in the bed. But then they started doing these experiments to see how far they could get the individual's energy body away from his physical body before self-preservation kicked in and pulled it back.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And then more than that, what they were doing with these DNA samples, when I broke through the screen memories, a lot of screen memories came with this one. When I got to the screen memories, where you had these 5 beings that were in control of this, that were in their dimension, universes, whatever, trying to make hybrids of this individual.
Wow.
Like cloning the hybrids. And then they were trying to fracture his soul so they could put pieces of it in these hybrids in different dimensions, but they couldn't do it. Like they couldn't get his body so far away. And here's the deal, okay? What I just described you, to me, sounds horrific and terrible, and a negative contact experience, I would say. And before I get done, I asked the individual, I say, so what kind of do you consider this negative, horrible experience, bad experience, whatever? And they're sitting there and their face immediately changes. Oh, no.
Wow.
Why the hell not? I mean, that was so I couldn't catch it. You know, why not? And they say this. They say, well, and to fill you in, the beings that are doing this, one is described as looking like an 8-foot tall eagle, raptor, but like almost like a bald eagle with the hair, with the thing. Okay. Another one is a Dogman that is described looking more like a jackal kind of, but or I'm sorry, a German Shepherd with the ears like this.
Right.
It's like 7-8 feet tall. It's huge too. Another one is an octopus humanoid with a face and like tentacles. Okay. And the other one was it a tall white? Can't remember. But anyway, the point being that each one of them is what they're doing, but then the individual says, I said, negative. Why is it not negative? Well, because they're capable of love, but it's like love like the animals here on this planet have it. But it's not even quite that. It's not like the way we love. And they're trying to evolve to love like we do. And then they say this, and the other thing is they're trying to figure out why it is when we die, we go directly to God and they don't.
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha.
And I mean, that just stopped me like there. I was like, whoa. I mean, I don't make the rules. I just listen. You know what I mean? So I'd accept that. But for that reason, they thought that the whole project that was being done on them was not a -1. So I guess, you know, it's all flavors for all different types. And what is it to quote Obi-Wan when Return of the Jedi? Luke was like, Ben, you lied. He said, actually, I told you the truth. It depends on your point of view. He said, my point of view. Well, let's face it. Kenobi was a liar anyway, Rob. You know,
you know, that guy, I could not trust him as far as I can throw him. Especially if they watch the series unfold.
Hey, that was your dad's lightsaber. He wanted you to have it. We said, no, that was your dad's lightsaber that I stole. I took it after I cut his arms and legs off and let him burn in an acid pit.
After I killed your dad, by the way. Oh, I don't know who he is. And I tell you what, Star Wars is if you look at it and break it down and study it, that's a sad series, man.
Oh yeah. Well, you know who was George Lucas says that now, who the movie was all about, really, and who was in every single one of them.
Yeah.
Darth Vader. Yeah. No, personally, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, the lightsaber thing, and I'd be like, hey, man, I took it. Hey, he went on holy ground and killed a bunch of kids with that thing, too. But hey, man, it's yours. Go for it, man.
Yeah, this is what I'm giving you, the weapon in which cindered your dad. Made him a machine.
I was hanging out with my cousins. I told them, I said, another liar is Rocky Balboa. In that movie Creed, he should have told that boy, hey, man, the truth is your dad danced himself out to James Brown. And then when he got in the ring, there wasn't nothing left, and he got killed in one round.
That's awesome.
If you watch that movie, Rocky even told him, hey, Apollo, try not to wear yourself out.
Yeah, right. I remember that. Hey, really quickly.
Yeah,
this is such a great show, man. There's two questions really briefly. I think we answered them, or you did. Barbara asked really quickly. She was wondering if the mantis are in the reptilians group. Back when we were talking about reptilians, what's your thoughts on that, real quick?
Just on the mantis.
Mantis. You think the mantis is part of the reptilians?
Yeah. Do I think they're part of reptilians? No, I think they're different. They're insectoid. But I've often heard of actually mantids being over grays and over reptiles also, and you've got different types of mantids. You've got the ones that look that are more like praying mantis, and you've got the others that are much bigger that say that they're actually they overlook solar systems and are like life carriers. What they do is actually infuse life in different solar systems. And when dealing with something like this book, the Uranta, they have beings they call life carriers that they say inhabit actually spread life in different worlds and things. We call life carriers, but they don't say what they exactly look like. And more than that, what do they look like when going through evolutionary changes of consciousness of containers? So that's kind of where I come from that. And one more thing on that, something you don't hear about the mantis, the black praying mantis that we have here on Earth too. But the black praying mantis, you've got hybrids here on Earth that are melanin dominant humanoids that have like extra joint here, and they're taller and have extra joint in their neck and things. And when you meet them, they have a dance that they do that's like a long dance. It's their way of saying hello.
Okay.
Right.
Just food for thought when it comes to mantids.
No, well, Barbara, thanks to you for that. I tried to get to it. Me and Chris tried to get to it. And Verax, who's relatively new, asked, and I think you answered this, or we might all have. Mm-hmm. Barry, have you ever heard of others being paralyzed, temporarily frozen, unable to move?
Yeah, during sleep. Is that what they're meaning, or they're to sleep?
That's just
sleep paralysis.
Yeah, this is basically I don't know.
A lot of times that's accompanied by either incubus or succubus, which are those beings that come for sexual energy, try to sexually assault us during sleep. They're really good to create paralysis. Also, during the abduction scenario or contact scenario, also a lot of times, like your partner can be immobilized the same way, almost like a stasis field they're in when you're going through your experience. So that's another way that could happen, another type of sleep paralysis. And there's always fear through night terrors too. But
Absolutely. Oh, really quickly, 86, I agree. Star Wars is soft disclosure. And I got to tell you what, a lot of those creatures in Star Wars, I heard rumors that executives during that show, they've seen some of those creatures from another life or whatever. Maybe they went there, got abducted, buried. I don't know. I think that could be a possibility.
Well, when you look at the bar scene, I think that's great. That was before Star Trek 10-4, Whoopi Goldberg, before all that. So I think that's, that's up there. And I think it's that guy, I met him in Vegas. What's his name? I'm trying to think of his real name. Daryl Aka Bashar. I had heard him talking one day, and he had said that he felt that Star Wars was our past in this galaxy and that Star Trek is our future. I kind of agree with that. You know what I mean? I think we're coming from a place where, for all we know, really, Earth is a prison planet where like Jedis were sent that didn't conform to the galactic empire, and you've also got those that were a criminogenic factor that had to be sent to a planet also, and then you go Earth, everybody wiped clean and sent to the school to learn again.
Okay.
And is that what we got here? Just food for thought again. Yeah.
Again, Barry's greatest words. You always hear Barry say food for thought, and Barry always has good food for thought. Really quickly, thanks to Tex and Matthew for your awesome super chats tonight. Thank you for the love and support. Once again, if you contribute any dollars to the show, I appreciate it. Not expected, always appreciate it. Go find Barry Littleton. He's got his link there. I've got it posted. Or you can type Barry Littleton if it's not in the chat right now, and it'll pull up on YouTube. I think Tex is going on in about 10 minutes. So check out Tex tonight. I think he's doing a night owl. He's
got Sir Brian on tonight, I think.
Sir Brian with Tex is going to be on probably another 10 minutes. Barry, anything else you want to promote? Anything you got going on? Books, conferences, whatever?
No, I'm a boring guy these days. You can check me out on YouTube under, as you always clown me, my name, Barry Littleton.
Yes.
And I'm also Instagram, Facebook. I'm also on Patreon, but YouTube's a good place to catch me. And if anybody wants services, I do hypnosis. I do readings, regressions. You can reach me, BarryLittleton13@gmail.com.
And I'll make sure I get that posted as well for you, Barry, because you certainly... I want to do that for you because I don't always do it all the time. But I thought your channel was Barry Littleton. You just changed it, eh?
What's that?
I thought if I type Barry Littleton on YouTube, it pulls up. I mean, I'm subscribed to you, but I just
it'll pull up. Yeah, okay. I don't think I'm quite so shadow bad. At least if you type my name in, it comes up.
Yeah.
So another small step for humanity.
You mentioned some things. You mentioned a few things at the end of this show that I could have talked for another hour about. But Chris has got to go to bed. Tex is coming on. And, of course, we always have you back every couple months you're on. And I appreciate the time, Barry. It's always a pleasure. You're one of my favorites.
Yep.
And I don't say it too often. I really don't.
My pleasure. Krista, please tell your husband I said hello, too.
We'll do. Yep. Thank you.
And Barry, thank you so much. Thanks to everybody for coming in tonight. Hit that like button on your way out. And please subscribe to Bigfootmichiganrob if you're new. Krista and Brandy, the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast, of course, Barry Littleton. And you guys, I was looking at something. I'm 190 away from 6,000. I know it's a little early to start putting that out. I'm getting there. My goal is August 15th. That would be spectacular. But more importantly, thanks for coming on in and watching the shows. That's why we do it, because not only do we love it, but we love putting out good content for you guys, which we attempt to do each and every day of the week. So it seems. Hit the what do you call that button? The alert bell. Catch us every night.
Yep.
Thank you, Barry.
Yes, thank you, Barry.
Thank you for having me, both of you.
Always a great time.
Thank you. Thank you to
the audience.
Thank you.
And thank you to Krista. And today is Thursday. Got anything special really quickly, Krista? Thursday?
Not yet. I'm not that far.
She's not that far, but tune into the Blondes Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for sure. Turn on the alert bell, as I said, as I look for my exit, and I just found it. Thanks, Barry. Thanks, Krista. Thanks to everybody in chat. Bye.
Good night.
This is the future.
Crossing Realms Conference launches September 19th and 20th and will dock in Richmond, Missouri. This is already being called the event of the year, folks, with an unprecedented list of speakers and special guests, 2 days of cryptids, UFOs, and paranormal presentations, along with a celebrity-filled ghost hunt, meet and greet, gallery reading, vendors, and a film screening. This promises to be both educational and fun. Go to eventbrite.com to secure your tickets and vendor slots before they are all abducted. They're going fast.